Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to our session. My name is Matt Cullen. I am the Senior Product Marketing Manager for Education here at Jamf. And really happy to have you as part of this session because we're going to be showcasing our classroom experience with Jamf. I was a teacher for 20 some years, secondary school teacher, worked in higher education, and trained primary school teachers. So I've kind of done the full range of education. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions when we get to the end of the session. But what I really want to showcase to you today is how do we give the management controls to a teacher in the classroom so they feel empowered to be in control of the learning. So it's about learning. Students are ultimately the main kind of outcome. How do they do in the classroom is really important. So how do we make sure teachers use the devices that we set up for them so that they are empowered in the classroom to actually use them? Just by show of hands, who's IT admin here? Who's kind of responsible for the setup? Everybody else, you teachers? Oh, no? What else do we have? Both. Oh, both IT and teachers, yep, fairly common kind of occurrence. So we want to showcase that this is a tool which will hopefully help the IT admins do their roles, as well as make sure that teachers can do their roles and kind of find that really nice, happy medium between the two. So I'm going to go on to Jamf Teacher, so you can follow along on my screen here, but your student devices, you'll see everything that I'm doing to your devices. Now my class is already set up, so Jamf School has set this up for me in advance. So as the teacher, I don't need to worry about any of this. And I've got a class set up which has connected me to you on the devices. Now you're all on my screens here. Some of you will potentially be pretending to be someone you're not at the moment. But this gives me that control over what I want you to do on your device. So let's start with restrictions. If I go to the restrictions on my screen, in just a couple of taps, I can take control of your device to make sure that I completely am confident that you're not going to do things I don't want to do. So let's take student selfies, for example. If you teach a certain age of child, the iPad can be full of photos in no time because they take 1 million selfies. So I can simply turn the camera off, tap apply, and on your devices now, you don't have the camera. So in an instant, I can switch that off. Now it's a simple thing, but it saves so much time in the classroom. Now for a confident teacher, you might be confident to have that classroom management and control. For someone who's not so confident, the thought of having an iPad in the classroom can be a real daunting experience. So therefore, the iPads don't come out of the boxes. So for all of you IT admins, you can do a great job of setting them up, but if the teacher doesn't use it, it's kind of a well-managed box in the corner. Now the other things that we can do is I can also do things like turn off spell check. So again, iPads in the classroom for teachers that want to teach literacy but have the fear that the iPad is going to do a lot of the literacy work because of spell check and autocorrect. So again, I with one tap can just switch that so the device now doesn't have autocorrect or spell check. So really quick and simple wins for both the IT admin and the classroom teacher. And I can simply tap clear restrictions at any moment and the camera will pop back onto your device and spell check will now be back in place. Now the next thing I can do is think about focused learning in the classroom. So when we talk about focused learning, on your devices at the moment, there is a range of apps. They're mostly educational. There are some social media apps on there as well and games. Now in a class, what we don't want to do is have students wasting time going to apps that they shouldn't go to, or with younger learners accidentally opening apps that aren't relevant. But then if we also think about students with additional learning needs, sometimes having a busy screen is quite off-putting anyway. So I as the teacher can go to App Lock and I can choose the apps I want you to have access to. So let's say I want you to do something creative. I'm going to give you access to some creative apps on the device. Tap apply, and then if you look on your screens now, all of those apps are going to be stripped away, so you only have access to the apps that I want you to have access to for the given time of the lesson. And again, that's teacher controlled. So it's not someone coming to IT all the time to ask you, can you strip this and add this, and then you've got to constantly redo the things. You just have that control as the teacher. Again, empowering the teacher to be able to do exactly what they need when they need to do it. It meets their individual requirements based on their confidence, as well as meeting the needs of the learning. Again, at any time, I tap clear restrictions, and the device goes back to full mode. You'll be able to see all of the apps again, ready for that next learning phase. And it happens really, really quickly. Now, the final thing to show you on this is WebLock. And WebLock works in exactly the same way. So when we're thinking about sending our students out to websites, rather than making QR codes, which is a quick and simple way to do it, I can just simply add in a web link. I'll just quickly do apple.com. And then when I tap apply on this, that is the only website you can access. So feel free to go onto Safari now, try and go onto any website you want, also try and go onto Apple, and you'll see that Apple is the only website that will open. The others will come up with a message to say that you do not have access. So it's a really, really quick and simple way to, again, focus students' learning on what's important and not waste students' time with them searching the internet for things that aren't relevant. Now, I've given you access to just one app. I could give to one website. I could give you access to a whole range of websites. So students still can surf the internet, but within the confines of the place that I want them to go. So again, really, really restricted, but scaffolded access for students. I'll show you one more thing here, and that's the attention mode. As we know, as teachers, it's not all done on iPads. There are times when I need to actually have their focus back on me as the teacher. And if I tap on the attention mode, I can choose a message to send to the device. So it might be talk to a partner for 5 minutes. It might be do some reflection work. It might be we're finishing in 10 minutes, make sure you start tidying up. Once I tap apply on that, again, that's going to send that message out to your devices. It will pop up with a lock screen, but it will also have that friendly message underneath to say why I've locked your device. So that will just pop up. And again, in this case, I can't remember what we've actually sent out on the device. iPad down, there we go. So just a simple message to tell students to do that. And again, tapping clear restrictions takes off that restriction on the device and should give you full access again. Now that's really, really good, really helpful. However, as a teacher who might still be a little bit skeptical about using iPads, they still have to do that in the middle of a lesson. So I'm kind of managing students, managing my content, and having to remember to lock them into apps, etc. So what we also have are lesson plans. These are pre-created lesson scaffolds that will allow the teacher to just tap 3 taps and set everything up. If I choose this creative literacy one, for example, you can see here I've added the list of apps already for that lesson. I've chosen a set of websites that are going to be relevant, and I've already added in the restrictions to say that I don't want them to have spell check because it's a literacy lesson, and I don't want them to use the camera because that's not the focus. Now when I go back to my class and I tap on Start Lesson, I tap Creative Literacy and tap Start, and that's all I need to do. So at the start of my lesson with Jamf Teacher, I tap button 3 times and your devices are now set up and ready to go. So you have access to those websites again that I asked you to use. You have access to the apps that I think are useful for the lesson, and you're restricted from using things like spell check and the camera, and I don't have to worry about that for the rest of the lesson. So as the teacher, I can now get on with my focus in the lesson. And I don't have to keep going back to IT to ask them to do this for me. And the teacher in the class next to me might not want to restrict it in this way. So they have that freedom to do it in a way that works for them. The other great thing here as well is similar to Apple Classroom, I don't have to do this for the whole class. I can do it for a group of individual learners or even one individual student who might need that additional support to work for them. And again, it's the teacher that takes on that control in the classroom to make sure it works. Now we think this works really, really well alongside Apple Classroom, because if I go to Apple Classroom now, I have exactly the same class already set up. I haven't had to do any extra lifting, and all of your screens are now displayed. So Jamf Teacher has set up my lesson. Apple Classroom now helps me manage the lesson. So I can use this to tap onto anyone's screen, do all of those great things, view the screen, share your screen to the board, talk about it as feedback, etc. And I haven't had to do anything additional in this. There is one extra really nice touch here though. Annika in this example does not have a headshot. So she just shows up as just that. She has her name underneath, or she's just the kind of outline of a head. There's a really, really nice touch in Jamf Teacher that you can do, which kind of is a playful way of making children personalize what they want to look like on your board. And that is because in here, I can tap on Annika's headshot, I can choose this edit function, change her photo, and then that will actually change her photo in Apple Classroom as well. So then it kind of personalizes that whole process. Really, really nice touch for students, certainly at the start of a year, getting to know you activities, probably for the younger learners, I'd say. Now that's really, really simple tool in order to make sure that we've got our students focused at all times on their learning. Like I said, I can restrict absolutely everything down to that point from the teacher being able to do everything they need to in the classroom. I'm going to leave you just for a couple of minutes to have a play around. I'm going to set it back to have you locked into certain things, and I'm going to challenge you now to also try and search on the internet, maybe for things you shouldn't search on the internet for. Maybe stick to gambling or gaming sites as opposed to some of those others. Because there's one last thing I want to show you as well. So over to you, because this is in your hands. Go onto the internet and try and find some things.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Oh, speaking to everybody.
Yes.
So we have a special way of grouping our kids. So we have like all the third graders, there's 66 third graders, in 3 different groups that are their normal class group, and then we mix them together at random parts of the day and very flexibly from one day to a next. Do you have a way to organize this in your mind?
So if I come out of this, it's going to stop people doing that. Can I show you in a second?
Yeah.
It's a good question, actually. It's probably useful for everyone to see. So,
That's great.
yeah. Yeah. How are we doing? Has anyone found anything they shouldn't find yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Keep trying.
When you lock the websites, you say that you can only read these ones. Is there a way to push those out to the student's device? You know, if you said, I want you to only use these 5 websites. Yeah, they are. How would you do that?
Yes. So I should have shown you that before. So if I'm going to set that again.
So now you couldn't go to other ones, but how do you go to the ones that you should?
Yeah. So if you go into Safari now, if you open a new, right there.
Oh, it adds to the paper.
Yeah, there's 2 ways actually. If you go to Jamf Student, so if you come out and go to the student app, if you tap on the panel there, they're also in the lesson links. So they're listed there as well. They're just, yeah. Which is part of the demo I should have shown, so I'll show it in a second.
That just saves their class time, isn't it?
Exactly.
If it's sort of right down like a massive.
And that's exactly the point. It's about saving that teacher and student time to just get on with the lessons, like just be focused. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so hopefully you weren't able to find anything on the devices. The whole idea of that is 2 ways. One, within Jamf Teacher, I've restricted you to only access certain, but also there's something else that we utilize called Jamf Safe Internet, which is kind of a preset way of having content filtering as well as threat prevention to stop students either accessing information they shouldn't, like gambling, gaming, or adult sites, etc. And it will just block them. And from an IT admin point of view, there are just predefined filters you just can switch on and off, even to the point of limiting the high bandwidth websites. You can just switch on one switch that says low bandwidth websites only, and everything that might strip the bandwidth will get restricted. So again, something which really just simplifies that process. Did have a question then, sorry, and I didn't showcase. There's a couple of things that I want to show. The first thing is, I'm in a class at the moment which has been pre-made for me by IT. But the question over here was, sometimes we have those ad hoc lessons where we restructure the students, and this would be really useful. So actually I have the option on my screen to just create a new class. So at any point I can go new class, name that whatever I want to call it. tap save, and the only additional tool I need to do here, and we won't actually do it, is in the student app on your device, you tap join class and type in the code. That's it. And it saves and it copies to Apple Classroom. So you also end up with a copy of that in Apple Classroom. So IT don't have to then make another class for you. Now it's something that you would want a policy around to make sure you don't end up with a million classes. But for your instance, that would work for you.
And I can edit it day by day.
The other thing I needed to show you, was how do you access those websites? So when I started that lesson, you had access to a list of about 5 websites. And the question here was, how do I access them? In the student app that you've now got on your screens, in the top left corner, you will see like a bar which allows the menu to come out. If you tap that, it actually gives you a list of lesson links that are all of those links that I sent you. If you also go to Safari and choose to add a new page, they pop up in your favorites as well. So I haven't had to do anything there to populate that other than list the websites that I want you to have access to. So again, really, really simple and straightforward approach. Okay, a couple of things to finish with before I let you go. In terms of that lesson that we've just looked at, this is the reason you might do something like that. So it was a haiku lesson, it was about doing some poetry, and I want the students to be creative. That's why we buy into iPads, because they allow us to have that level of creativity. Now, don't judge my creativity here, but the idea is that students can take something which might just be a research activity, read a poem, and then using the iPad, turn it into something else, be creative, draw pictures with it, because that actually helps them learn a lot better and remember those things. So what are the next steps for you then? We have a Jamf Educator course that you can go through. If you don't currently have Jamf School set up, you can go into Jamf Educator, and there is a simulation in there which will just help you understand everything that I've shown you here. Talks through all of the different processes. For all of the teachers in the room, you also get a badge as a result of this. And I know teachers love collecting badges, and I can see the smiles on the IT admin's face. You like a badge as well. So you could get a badge as a result of this. We also have in Jamf Nation a specific education hub. This is a place where we're asking teachers to come and share your experiences, talk about the things that you do, for IT admins to come in and kind of understand why teachers might need this in their school and how you might want to set it up to support them. So again, please do join our education hub, come and share some of your use cases, and tell us things that you like about the product and things that you think would really benefit you. And then we have one more thing in true Apple style, and that is, coming soon, we have a new version of Jamf Teacher where we've redesigned this. So now those old images of the students now looks a little bit different. For me personally, I think it's a lot easier to control things, because now when I do web lock and app lock, I can see exactly what I've done at all times. So if I go to app lock now and choose just a range of apps and tap apply, I can see at all times which apps I've actually locked the student to. So it's really, really engages the teacher to understand at all times. I can also add additional apps at any point. So if this group of students over here were saying, oh sir, is there any chance we could have access to our files? At any point I can jump in and just add that. I don't have to reset everything, I don't have to unblock, and I could isolate it to just that group of students as well. So it's a really, really nice upgrade that we're bringing, and it will be released very, very soon. Monday. There we go. It will be released Monday, because the person who's releasing it is going to bang it. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that was really, really useful. I'll be sticking around for a bit, so if you do have additional questions, happy to answer any questions. The final thing, we have a prize draw. You may well have seen this when you signed up. And my glamorous assistant, thank you very much, Mia. The winner is Paul Platts of the AirTag case. There we go. Nice. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah,